Hello everyone. In this video, I'm gonna take a trip down memory lane with Super Mario Bros. This classic game was a big part of so many of our childhoods, including mine. Okay, so you can see that the first level of this game is made up of a bunch of 2D elements that I've recreated in 3D. And in this level, the characters like Mario have different abilities that I tried my best to include all of them. Alright, first let me show you the entire gameplay of the first level. After that, I'll explain how it's been set up. When I started making this game, it seemed easy at first. However, it turned out to be quite challenging. Of course, I see it as a positive thing because it helped me improve my skills and get ready to create even more games. It was especially beneficial when I decided to design an ability system that would make it easier to expand the game in the future. Alright guys, unfortunately, as you may have noticed, I couldn't use the music and sounds from the Mario game for obvious reasons. And since I couldn't find any suitable free music for the game, I ended up just making the whole thing without any sound at all. Okay, the main tools I used to develop this game were Unity, VS Code and Blender. Especially Blender, that made it a lot easier for me to create all the different characters, objects, textures and animations in the game. Alright, let's head over to Blender and I'll show you how these models are put together. If you take a close look, you'll see that all the objects are made in a low poly style. One important thing I had to consider when creating these models was their size. I needed to design them in a way that would look good when they were all put together. That's why all the blocks you see here are based on a 1 meter scale. In fact, most of the objects and characters in the game follow this size. I chose this size because I wanted the game's dimensions to be similar to Mario. So, I based the blocks, Mario himself and other characters on a measurement of 1 meter. That 1 meter reference was really helpful, like when I was designing these pipes. I could make sure they were the right size compared to the 1 meter tall Mario character. Okay guys, making these objects was probably the easiest part of this game. A lot of them are pretty similar, just with a few small changes. Take the question mark block and the empty block. They are very similar. And once you make one of them, it's easy to create the second one. However, making the ground textures had its own challenges. I had to create a repeating pattern for the ground that would look seamless. Then I could play around with the colors to get different variations. And here's what I came up with for the ground textures. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Okay guys, keep in mind that providing a detailed explanation for every part of this game will take time. I hope to have the opportunity to show you how they were made in the future. Okay, my goal was to just finish the game, not necessarily make it perfect. Keeping that in mind, let's now talk about the characters in the game. you can notice that all the characters are low poly models, designed to be about 1 meter in scale. Except for the Fire Flower and Superstar, all of the other characters have rigs and animations. The most challenging character I ever created was Mario, and it was a valuable learning experience. You can find all the references I used on the screen. Okay, creating animations for characters can often be a problem for game developers. For example, let me show you how I did the running animation for Mario. I took a series of pictures from the Super Mario Run and then identified the 4 key poses and tried to recreate that run cycle. I spent some time working on it so it could be used in the game. The result is not perfect, but I didn't spend too much time on it. Nevertheless, I'm pretty happy how it turned out. As I said, my focus wasn't on making everything perfect. That can cause a game to never actually get finished, which isn't ideal for someone aspiring to be an independent game developer. Guys, just keep in mind, I did this mainly as practice, not something I wanted to sell. If I ever decide to develop my own game in the future, I will spend more time on characters, animations and other stuff. However, that is not my current goal. Alright, the last thing I want to mention is that most of the characters and objects in the game are made using only one texture, which you can see on the screen right now. Okay, now let's go to Unity and talk more about the game there. Since I aimed to include all the features of the first level, I'd like to briefly explain them before focusing on the ability system that I created for this game. The overall look and feel is inspired by the Super Mario Bros. And since this game is set in a 3D environment, I included water to separate the main playing area from the mountains in the background. Okay, I made a simple wind shader effect for the bushes, which gives them a simple movement. I also created a separate shader specifically for the water. Additionally, I created a shader for the sky to give it a gradient appearance. By adding some trees to the terrain, I was able to recreate that familiar feeling of the Mario game environment. Okay, let's play the game to talk about blocks. In this place, we have 3 different types of blocks. Question mark blocks that have coins inside, another question mark block that has an item, and some breakable blocks. Each block operates according to its own instructions and rules. For instance, in the Mario game, when we're at the default size, we're unable to break the breakable blocks. Let's give it a try. As I tried, I couldn't break the breakable block. To be able to break these blocks, I need a Super Mushroom power-up. So let's go ahead and hit that block to get the Super Mushroom. Now that I have the Super Mushroom, I can break them. But how does this process work? Let's see. For the breakable blocks, using the particle system is a good and easy way, similar to how I used the particle system for Mario when he landed on the ground. but instead of using a particle system here, I decided to use a rigid body. The result was more fun for me. Okay, for the blocks that have coins, I created a separate script. This script can make the block throw out a different number of coins. For instance, in this case, the block turns into an empty block once 3 coins have been taken from it, just like in the Mario game. Let's give it a try. Okay, for moving the coins inside the block, I used an animation curve. This animation curve is a really great feature to use for cases like this. Now let's talk about the last script that concerns the blocks and the items they contain. The important thing about this script is that it determines whether a fire flower or a super mushroom should come out based on Mario's mode. To achieve this, I included 2 parameters that control the item selection based on Mario's mode. Okay, before we get to the ability system, let's go over the game management scripts. These are the scripts that handle the overall management of the game. In the Mario game, the time limit is 400 ticks, which is actually equivalent to 160 seconds. To handle this, I created a script for managing the game's timer. Another important script is the one that calculates the points. Depending on what Mario does in the game, he can earn different amounts of points. Okay, there is an item for when Mario completes a level, where we receive points based on the remaining timer. Alright guys, now let's talk about the ability system. When I was writing the code for Mario, I realized that putting everything in just one class was not a good idea. The reason is that it wouldn't let me use this code for other games in the future or easily expanding the game. So instead, I decided to build a more flexible system for adding new features to Mario. For now, this system has 4 types of abilities. The main type is for abilities that completely change the player's state, like running or jumping. The overlay type is for abilities that modify the main state, like when Mario is running and can shoot a fireball. The third type is for abilities that don't modify the main state, but affect it, like being able to move while falling. And the last type is for abilities that are always running in the background, like checking if Mario is on the ground. Breaking it up this way makes the system more modular and easier to add new features to the game going forward. Okay guys, to help you understand this ability system better, let me demonstrate how to add the crouch ability to Mario. Alright, let's start by creating a class just for the crouch ability. I'll call it Player Crouch Ability. Now let's open VS Code. Here we'll put the ability in the player namespace. Every ability needs an ID, so let's give it one. For now, I'll use this ID for the animator component. Guys, notice that this video isn't a tutorial. If you want a tutorial on how to make a game like this, just tell me. Alright, it's good. Now let's assign this ability to Mario. To do this, let's create an empty object here. After that, I'll drag the ability class to the object. Okay, to activate this ability, we need an input. So let's give it a name. Now we need to create an input action in the Unity input system with that name. I'll use the C key for crouching. Okay, now when we're in the idle ability, we want Mario to be able to crouch. To do that, we have to put the crouch ability in the replaceable ability list. Also, we must add the crouch ability to the player controller. Now let's go to the crouch ability and work on the script. The first method I wanna override is the try to change ability. This method is used to check if this ability can be active or not. The second method is this running. When the ability is active, I'll use this method to check if the ability is running or not. If it's not, the current ability will be replaced with the default ability, which is the idle ability. To check that, I'll use a new variable to check if the ability is crouching or not. I'll also override the activate and deactivate methods, which allows me to do some actions if needed. Okay, now it's time to check if the player is crouching or not. In the crouch ability, let's allow the idle ability to be replaced with the crouch ability. Alright, I think we can test this out. Let's play the game. Okay, as you can see, after I hold the C key, the crouch ability will be activated, and when I release it, the idle ability will be the current ability. Now let's set an animation to the player based on the ID that we provided to the crouch ability. Alright, everything works as it should. Okay guys, I wanted to let you know that there are a lot of scripts I wrote for this game, and I can't explain all of them in just one video. Look at Mario and all the cool things he can do. For instance, I use this ability when Mario hits blocks. The name of each ability makes it clear what it does. Another thing I wanna talk about is the ability to interact with items. Animation curves played an important role in this game. I use this one to scale Mario up and down. And I use this one to change his color when he gets the ability to shoot fireballs. And when Mario is in Superstar mode, his color changes too, thanks to an animation curve. These color changes are based on the texture. Let me show you Mario's texture. As you can see, by changing the Y offset, we can easily change Mario's color. Alright, the last thing I wanna mention is about the abilities of other characters. You can see that I used the same ability system for all the characters. I'm trying to improve this system so that more games can be made with it. Okay, finally let me play the game one more time for those who want to see it again. Okay guys, that's it. If you have any question, let me know. Thanks for watching.